What if I told you the man in yellow appeared in town long before he showed up in the form of Sophia? Get nice and comfortable because the theory I'm about to share with you is definitely worth your time. From the second Tilly arrives in town, her strange behavior is hard to miss. At first, it seems like she's just choosing to ignore the danger by building her own reality. That's why Tilly's dancing in the rain, like a ballerina in the middle of a strange town, doesn't seem that odd at first. Unlike the other bus passengers who are panicking in the background by the closed diner, she chose to just detach herself from the stress. But later, when the plot involving the music box and the ballerina starts to unfold, doubts really start to creep in. Knowing how Fromville loves to throw out warnings, we start to realize that something is clearly off. It adds fuel to the fire when Tilly guesses Fatima is pregnant at an incredibly early stage, even though it's obviously impossible to know that. What's interesting is that Elgin is present during this conversation. The excuse that Tilly has 3 kids and 7 grandkids, so she just guessed Fatima's condition, feels pretty weak. From that moment on, she literally starts following Fatima around. And the more you watch it, the more you realize this isn't just about caring. Take a look at how Tilly watches Fatima eat those rotten vegetables. You could technically rationalize her reaction, since pregnant women do sometimes have strange cravings. However, look at the way Tilly is looking at her. She is literally studying Fatima's behavior to confirm something. It's the look of someone who holds a secret but isn't in any rush to share it. Then it gets even more interesting. Fatima is worried about her baby's health, so Tilly offers to read her tarot cards. She justifies this by saying it's how she predicted her own illness and her arrival in Fromville. Despite her doubts, Fatima eventually agrees. When Tilly flips the first card, something very strange happens. A crow flies through the window, causing everyone to panic, flapping its wings before crashing into the wall near Elgin. We realize this was a literal warning to Fatima about a future threat. Later, Tilly talks to Elgin about Fatima, expressing her concern. At that exact moment, the boy sees the woman in the kimono for the first time. If we assume Tilly just has good intuition, then she should have realized Elgin would become a future threat. Personally, I think she knew exactly what she was doing and was actually helping. Tilly basically tipped Elgin off that Fatima was the chosen one. On top of that, she was constantly nudging the boy to, shall we say, help his friend. But that's not all. Later, Tilly finds Ellis and asks about Fatima. Ellis tells her they're just taking it one step at a time. Tilly immediately calls him out, saying she knows he's lying because Fatima told her about the food cravings. Ellis explains that they did an ultrasound the night before but didn't find a baby, and there are 2 possibilities. Either something supernatural is growing inside her, or something is wrong with Fatima herself. Tilly shuts it all down immediately, assuring him everything is fine. What's interesting is that this didn't feel like a desperate attempt at support. It felt like a literal ominous warning that Ellis unfortunately didn't catch. Before we keep going, I have a big favor to ask. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers, and I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for all the support, and in the meantime, let's get back to it. At first, you might think Fromville just tricked Tilly the way it did Elgin, which is why all these weird things are happening. But I don't think that's it. Tilly doesn't just act strange around Fatima. You might have also noticed some pretty tense conversations with other main characters. Jim seems to realize right away that something is fishy. He asks Tilly where she was heading before she got stuck here. She says she was going to the racetrack to bet on horses. Jim also asks if it was a charter bus, but interestingly, Tilly doesn't know. This looks suspicious and makes us think she might have been an accidental passenger, much like Sophia. After that, Jim asks Tilly what's in her bag. She gets pretty aggressive and snaps that he asks too many questions. Jim tries to ask one more, but he collapses in pain. So remember that the man in yellow can cause states like that, just like he did with the priest. It's way too convenient to be a coincidence. By the way, regarding the goal of her visit to the Fromville clinic, she literally provokes Marielle. Christy doesn't really get in the way because Tilly starts talking about her illness, almost as if she's distracting her from a potential threat. That's probably why Tilly didn't say anything to Jim. He guessed what was going on right away. The strange behavior doesn't end there. When Boyd is heading to the church, Tilly appears in his path. She tells him she's heard about his incredible adventures. Boyd tries to steer the conversation elsewhere, saying he's looking for his deputy. And of course, Tilly knows exactly where Kenny went. She has an amazing memory for everyone's names, despite only knowing these people for a few days. And her observation skills are just as incredible for someone who is supposedly a sick person who usually stays at Colony House. We know exactly who else has those unique skills. Sophia literally knows every detail about the town, even though she's only been there a few days. It's also pretty unsettling when we later see Tilly leading a prayer circle at Colony House, reciting the 23rd Psalm. It's impossible not to be reminded of Sophia, who is very well versed in the Bible. This might seem like a small detail, but considering my previous arguments, it perfectly highlights the similarities between these two characters. So, it's time to say it openly. Tilly is likely just another mask for the man in yellow. Remember exactly when she showed up in town, right when the town was about ready to give up. There was so much chaos in Fromville that it felt like the end was near. It was only after Tilly disappeared that things started to settle down. If you think you can't be surprised anymore, I saved one last thing for the end. Remember how I mentioned Tilly had 3 children and 7 grandkids? After everything I've said, that looks like a direct hint at the trio in the dungeon and the 7 Anghkooey children. When you interpret it that way, it gets incredibly creepy. The man in yellow has such a typical pattern of behavior that these signs are easy to spot once you see them. Of course, this could all be one unreal coincidence, but I still think Tilly was clearly hiding something. What do you think about my theory? Have you noticed anything else weird about Tilly? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read them. Also, don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you in the next video.